My name is Elena Morales. I am 31 years old and I live in a small apartment on the east side of Barcelona. It's not far from the beach, but I hardly ever go. Most people imagine that life near the sea must feel free and peaceful, but my life is not like that. Not anymore. I work at a cafe serving tourists and local workers during the day. In the evenings, I take care of my younger brother, Mateo. He is 15 and lives with me because we lost our parents 2 years ago. I try my best to be strong for him, to smile and cook dinner and help with his homework. But inside, I am not strong. I am carrying something heavy, and it follows me every hour of the day. That secret began 2 months ago, and it started with a passport. On the morning it happened, the air was still cold from the night. I stood by the small stove in my kitchen, waiting for the kettle to boil. Outside the window, the city was waking up. Scooters speeding past, dogs barking on balconies, and neighbors calling to each other as they opened their shops. I remember looking at the toast turning brown and thinking, today will be normal. But it wasn't. I walked into the bedroom to clean up a little. My boyfriend Luis had left early for a job interview in Madrid. He said it was important. The kind of job that would change our lives. He had never been this excited before. We had talked about moving together if he got it. A fresh start. A new chapter. On the floor near his bag, I saw the corner of his passport sticking out. He must have forgotten to put it back inside. It was half open, showing his picture. Dark hair, serious eyes, and that quiet, careful smile I loved. I reached down to tuck it back into the pocket when something else caught my eye. There was a folded letter hidden behind the photo page. I didn't plan to read it, but my fingers moved before my brain stopped them. It was written in a woman's handwriting. The first line said, "Luis, I waited for you again last night." I didn't need to read the rest. I froze. I sat down on the bed and stared at the letter. My heart beat faster. I read the whole thing twice. She was someone from Seville. They had been seeing each other for months. She believed he was leaving me. She believed they had a future. I couldn't understand. Luis had promised me so many things. That we would travel, that we would save for a home, that he loved me. And I believed him. I had trusted him not only with my heart, but with my life. When I lost my parents, he was the one who told me I didn't have to go through it alone. And I had believed every word. My hands were shaking. I couldn't breathe. I knew what I should do. I should confront him. Ask him why. Make him tell the truth. But something inside me broke. I didn't want the truth anymore. I wanted it to disappear. I wanted him to feel even a part of the pain I was holding inside. I don't remember walking to the stove. I only remember standing over it with the passport in my hand. I tore the letter first, piece by piece, into the trash. Then I opened the little flame and held the edge of the passport to it. It didn't catch right away. The pages curled slowly, turning black at the corners. The smell was awful. Plastic and ink. I stood there watching it burn, like watching the end of a dream I didn't know I was still living in. When it was done, I sat on the kitchen floor. My fingers were dark with smoke. My face felt hot, but my eyes were dry. Luis came back that evening. He looked tired but happy. He kissed me and said the interview went well. He said he had something to tell me, that the job was his if he wanted it. But there was a small problem. He had lost his passport. He couldn't find it anywhere. I listened. I nodded. I told him maybe it had fallen behind the couch or between the pages of a book. He searched for it. He looked through everything. Twice. That night, we lay in the same bed, but I didn't sleep. I could feel the weight of what I had done pressing down on me. I could feel the heat of the burned passport still on my skin. And I could feel something else growing, something I didn't expect. It was power. I had always been the quiet one, the one who forgave too easily, the one who stayed when she should have walked away. But now I was holding the truth, and he wasn't. I watched him worry, and I stayed silent. I cooked dinner. I washed the dishes. I even helped him search again. I became a different version of myself. The next few days passed like a strange play. Luis started calling the embassy, trying to arrange a replacement. But the timing was bad. There was a strike. Everything was delayed. He missed the deadline to send documents to Madrid. He became angry, confused, distant. I told him to be patient, that things would work out. But deep inside, I knew they wouldn't, because I had made sure of it. The woman from Seville didn't call. Maybe she was tired of waiting. Maybe she realized the truth. Or maybe she never existed. Maybe the letter was old. Maybe he had ended it already. I didn't know. And I didn't want to know. Because now I had a secret that could never be undone. And I had chosen to keep it. One night, about a week later, Mateo asked me if something was wrong. He said I seemed different, quieter, like I was far away. I smiled and told him everything was fine. But I couldn't meet his eyes, because if he looked too closely, he would see the truth, that his sister had crossed a line she could never return from. Luis still lives with us. He's still trying to find a new way to leave Barcelona. He talks less now, sleeps more. There's a sadness in him that wasn't there before. And I don't know if it's from the job, the lost passport, or something deeper that he can feel between us. Sometimes I want to tell him, to shout the truth and see what happens next. But I don't. Because once you set fire to something, it doesn't come back the same. And I'm afraid that if I speak, everything will fall apart. Not just our relationship, but the image of who I used to be. It's strange. I thought the secret would destroy me, but instead, it's become a part of me, a hidden thread in the story of my life. And no matter what happens now, I will always remember that cold morning in March, the morning I burned the passport and changed everything. Before I share the rest of my story, Could you please tell me where you're from? It gives me strength to know there's someone out there who listens to me, who understands me. It means a lot to me. 2 weeks after I burned the passport, the days began to feel heavier. Not busier, just heavier. Like each one carried something I couldn't see but could feel deep inside my chest. I went to work, cleaned the apartment, made meals, and answered questions from Mateo like I always did. But in every quiet moment, the memory of the flame came back. At first, I thought it was only guilt. That would have made sense. But this was different. It felt like something was watching me from inside myself. Like a version of me I didn't fully understand was now awake. And she wasn't going back to sleep. Luis noticed too. He didn't say anything at first, but I could feel him watching me more closely. He asked small questions. Was I okay? Was I tired from work? Was I worried about money? I gave him quiet answers. He didn't push. One night, he left his phone on the table while he went to take a shower. It lit up. A message. I didn't move for a few seconds, just stared at the name on the screen. Sonia. I didn't want to open it. I had already done enough. I had already crossed a line I couldn't uncross. But my hand reached for it anyway. The message said, "I'm sorry. I hope you're okay. I haven't heard from you, but I understand. Please take care of yourself." There were no hearts, no kisses, no angry words. Just something quiet. Something that didn't sound like betrayal at all. It sounded like someone who had been let go. Slowly, silently, and with sadness. I turned the phone over so the light wouldn't show anymore. I sat still for a long time. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay next to Luis and listened to his breathing. For a moment, I thought about waking him and telling him everything. The letter, the match, the fire. But I didn't. The strange part is I no longer hated him. I wasn't angry. I wasn't heartbroken. What I felt now was more complicated. I felt like I was living beside someone I didn't know anymore, and maybe had never really known. A few days later, something unexpected happened. Luis came home with a small plastic folder in his hand. He had gone to the police station that morning to report his passport missing, and they had started the process to issue a temporary one. Inside the folder was a printed sheet with his new passport number and travel status. He sat at the table, reading every word, but I could see it in his face. Something had changed. The new passport was coming, but it wouldn't come in time. The job in Madrid had already gone to someone else. He didn't say anything about it. He didn't complain. He didn't shout. But I saw it in the way he moved. Slower, heavier, like his dreams were now too far away to reach. That night, I stayed up late. I watched him sleep again. I remembered how I used to feel safe next to him, how his hand on mine used to calm me down. Now, everything between us was quiet and cold. Not angry, but full of things we didn't say. The next morning, he surprised me. He was already awake, sitting by the window with his backpack packed. "I'm going to Seville," he said. "I've been thinking about it a lot. I need to clear my head. I need time." I didn't ask why. I didn't ask who he was going to see. I didn't ask how he could afford the trip. I simply nodded. Inside, I felt something I didn't expect. Relief. It was strange. You would think that after everything, watching him walk away would hurt. But it didn't. It felt like air after being underwater too long. Mateo came home from school a few hours later. I told him Luis had gone on a short trip. He asked if everything was okay, and I said yes. But the way he looked at me told me he didn't believe it. That evening, the apartment felt lighter. I made pasta for dinner, and Mateo played music on his phone while we ate. It was the first time I smiled in days. Not a fake smile. A real one. The kind that lives in your eyes for just a moment before it disappears. But that night, something else happened. After Mateo went to bed, I walked into Luis's room to gather some of his laundry. On the shelf, hidden under a book, was a notebook I hadn't seen before. I should have left it there. I had already done too much. But I was already holding it before I realized what I was doing. Inside were pages and pages of writing. Not about me. Not about Sonia. About himself. About how lost he felt after his father died. How he didn't feel strong enough to take care of his mother. How he moved to Barcelona hoping to become someone new. How he always felt like he was running away from something. He had written, "Elena thinks I'm confident, but I'm not. I'm scared she'll see how weak I really am." I sat on the floor and read every page, and something broke inside me. Not because of what he wrote, but because I finally saw him. The real him. Not the one I had loved or hated or lied to, but the one underneath all that. The one who had made mistakes and was trying to survive them. I closed the notebook and put it back. I went to bed and didn't sleep again. The next morning, I walked to the sea. The sky was cloudy and the beach was empty. I stood near the rocks and watched the waves come in and out. I thought about calling Luis. I thought about telling him the truth. But I didn't. Not because I wanted to hide, but because I wasn't ready for the part that would come after. I had changed. I had become someone who could lie, hide, and destroy. But I had also become someone who saw things more clearly now. Someone who knew that love, without truth, will always feel like a lie, even when no one speaks. For the first time, I wasn't sure if I wanted him to come back. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of being alone. 3 days passed without a message from Luis. The silence was not loud. It was soft, like falling snow, but it filled every corner of the apartment. I kept expecting the doorbell to ring or my phone to light up, but nothing came. I went to work each morning. I smiled at customers, served coffee, wiped tables. I laughed when I had to. But inside, I was still carrying the truth, the one I had created, the one that had changed everything. Mateo was quieter too. He didn't ask about Luis anymore. He focused on school, music, and his drawings. Sometimes I watched him when he wasn't looking. He had lost so much already. Our parents, his childhood, and now this version of home we had tried to build. I wondered if he would ever trust something enough to believe it wouldn't fall apart. On the fourth evening, Luis called. I let the phone ring twice before I answered. His voice was soft. He said he was staying with a friend in Seville. He said he needed more time to think. And then he said something that stayed with me. "I don't think I'm who you thought I was," he said. I didn't answer, because I wanted to say the same thing. I wasn't who he thought I was either. We ended the call politely. No anger, no tears. It felt like two people standing on opposite sides of a door, each holding the key, but too afraid to use it. That night, I sat on the balcony until the sky turned black. I thought about the kind of person I had become. I wasn't proud, but I didn't hate her either. She had done something awful. Yes. But she had also survived something she didn't think she could. A week later, I received a letter in the mail. It was from Luis. He didn't blame me for anything. He didn't ask questions. He only said that he needed to be alone for a while, and he was going to stay in Seville longer than planned. He said he hoped Mateo was doing well and that he would always be thankful for the time we spent together. There was no return address. I folded the letter carefully and placed it in a drawer I rarely opened. I didn't know why I kept it. Maybe to remind myself that everything leaves a mark, even silence. One afternoon, I left work early. I walked through the city for hours. I passed the church where my parents were married, the bakery where Luis used to buy sweetbread, and the bench by the fountain where he first told me he loved me. Everything was the same, but I was not. When I got home, Mateo was sitting at the table with a school form in his hand. He said he wanted to apply for a summer program in Valencia for drawing and animation. It would be his first time away from Barcelona without me. I hesitated. My first instinct was to say no, to keep him close, to protect what was left of us. But then I looked at his face. He wasn't a child anymore. He needed to become someone else too. Someone stronger, freer, unafraid. I nodded. I told him we'd figure out the cost, and I would help him with the application. That night, I cleaned out the shelf in Luis's old room. I packed his things into a box and pushed it into the closet. I didn't cry. I didn't break. I simply did what needed to be done. Because sometimes that's what healing looks like. One small task at a time. The next morning, I did something I had been avoiding for weeks. I opened the small cabinet under the sink. That's where I had thrown the last pieces of the burned passport. The edges were still black. The photo half melted. I picked it up carefully and stared at it. This is what secrets look like when they come into the light. Broken, ugly, and too late to fix. I placed it in a trash bag and took it outside. As I stood by the garbage bins, I didn't feel sad. I felt clean, like something inside me had been washed out. I had made a mistake, a big one, but it didn't have to be the end of me. Back upstairs, the apartment felt new. Mateo had left a note on the fridge. It said, "Don't forget to breathe." He had drawn a little heart next to it. I smiled. It had been weeks since I last wrote in my journal. I opened it now and sat by the window. I wrote, "Some truths stay hidden because we're afraid they'll destroy everything. But sometimes it's the hiding that hurts more than the truth ever could." I closed the journal and looked out at the street. The city was still moving, full of people who had no idea about the things I had done or the things I had lost. But that was okay, because this was my story. Not a perfect one, not a proud one, but a real one. And I was still writing it. I hope you have enjoyed the story. Like and comment if you want to hear more soon.